Yeah, hello. Welcome to the little talk, Refactoring Disasters Story, How I Failed. So maybe a little about me. I'm a software engineer, mostly in DevOps and working as a build configuration and release manager. But I have a very, very strong background as a Java developer, full stack developer since more than 15 years. And yeah, with this, I was getting my little project. This I will here now introduce why I was having troubles and how it goes. Okay, let's see a bit what was my motivation for making there some changes. Let's show how I was getting prepared, what action I did, and then when I was realized, oh, this will not work like I was wanted. And then I took a deep read how to continue that everything goes somehow in a way I was needed. Well, as first, let's have a short thinking about what is refactoring, because usually when we see the definition of Martin Fowler, he say, yeah, we are doing some internal changes without changing something external, the structure of our code or application. But it's not always like this and not that simple, because there are so many things you have to keep in mind when you're doing a refactoring, when you have to applicate some changes. In my case, it's change of the PDF library, because I have in my little project PDF library. It's able to generate some simple PDF document, for example, as an invoice or like this. This code is based on iText 5. But as you can see here, iText 5 now is in end of life. So I have to do something. One option would be change to iText 7, but there's some issues with the licensing. Currently, they changed to 8 GPL or a proprietary commercial license. This in an open source project I was not wanted, and then I decided to take Libre OpenPDF. This is under Mozilla public license version 2, and here we are a bit more free with the things we are doing. Another cool benefit of OpenPDF is the version 5 is a fork of iText 5. So I was expected don't have too many changes. Here we are starting with the first little confusing things, because you'll find in the GitHub repositories iText, the OpenPDF 5 as a fork of iText 5, but the current version of OpenPDF is 1.3. So maybe not so as well. Let's have a little look in the application I'm talking about, because this is visible in GitHub. You can see it here. We call this, or I call it TP Core. It's a little Java application available, free for usage, also commercial. And currently I'm working in version 3.0. This have some features now, like application logger, property reader, also a template engine based on velocity. Also here, the PDF renderer. This is the part I'm going to change. I want to change, or I need to change. With this little library, I use it, or I introduce it usually for some research on topics, because what I was wanted to investigate is more about software development life cycle. So things on how to increase the test coverage, what you do to reach a very high test coverage, what we could do with also some DevOps strategies, what is with API changes, and so on. So as you can see here, there are several branches. And the branch I was working with the PDF change is here version 2.2. So nothing is there in the main branch. Okay, let's go back. What I was doing as a preparing for the goal I was wanted to reach. As first, you can see I was creating a branch in the version 2.2. And the current master branch is version 3.0. Why this was necessary? One thing is the current released version is available in Maven Central is 2.1. And of course, I was decided to have some API changes. For that reason, I have to increase my version number, like you can see that, or how it's defined in semantic versioning. It's something I use here in this project. Of course, it's not a good idea to move all the API changes and on directly into the new version. And then I decided, okay, I want to have a version 2.2 where make the PDF changes. This I'm able to release. The consumers of this library, can try out as first with the old version of PDF creation with iText 5 and the new PDF creation with OpenPDF. So everything of this is in parallel, the implementation classes. To have both options in the version 2.2, I was created there a new class, OpenPDF renderer. The main goal is secure the existing functionality I was having there in the iText PDF render. There's some nice issues. A lot of people of you already was seeing here iPDF renderer, a new PDF renderer impl. This kind of namings, they are very common in several projects. Not that nice. I mean, even if you see that in the Java core library, you know, if you're thinking there in, for example, the list interface is simply list, and the implementation is done, for example, in an array list. And the same I was doing here. I was created the PDF renderer as an interface. And then I have an implementation iText renderer and OpenPDF renderer. So in this moment, my code already was prepared. I was happy. So like this, I was felt quite happy. But yeah, let's have a little look to the architecture that you can understand how is the code organized, what we are planning to change. As first, it's a simple layer architecture, and we are taking care of the business and the application layer. In our case, the PDF functionality API interface you find in the business layer. This is, like I already explained, is a PDF renderer .java class, and the implementation classes, they are located in the application layer. So I have here a Java 11 library. So the result will be a jar file you can add in your project as a dependency. As I already told, we are currently in release 2.1. Is a Maven build and also available in Maven Central. So just include it, you can use it. Everything is also described in GitHub, how to use it. So what are the other layers? Well, the domain layer is for domain database objects. Then we have the service layer for RESTful services, an orchestration layer for managed beans I use later in other projects, and also a presentation layer for the view. In this way, the architecture have here the big benefit, because all my projects I do by my own, they are organized like this. So if you are switched between the projects, you don't need to have to find up what is new and what I was doing between the others. I don't need that much setup time. No? This is also a very big benefit for companies. When you are working in a huge company with several software projects, maybe you should try to find a way to organize your source code, your project structure almost the same. It doesn't matter what functionality you are using, because then when team members have to switch between teams for supporting or temporarily or permanently, then they don't need that much setup time, no? To jump into the new structure of the new project. So here we have this benefit. But let's have a look fast to the code. Here, this is my NetBeans Idee I'm using for this project. And you can see in the project, the source packages, they are organized in these layers. I have here the application layer, I have the business layer, and in the application layer, you can see here the iText renderer and also the OpenPDF renderer. The same is here in business. There is the PDF renderer interface. We have to implement by the iText or OpenPDF. And here is some helper classes. They are hidden in an application internal package. So this shows up on, don't use these classes directly because they could change or disappear somehow. If you want to do it a little more nice, you could the Java 9 modularization, but Java modules, they are a bit complicated. Not all the dependencies, they are currently available as module. So it's a bit better to solve it currently in this way. And then we have here some others, domain. We have some exceptions. Orchestration is currently empty because I'm not using. Here some services. Services in that way, they're a combination of some application, of some implementation classes to do something special. In this case, you can see here is the email service, for example, what means how to read the configuration, sending email, and then that. Okay, this is the structure of the project. Of course, very helpful to this. We have also the test packages. It's also available. This corresponds exactly the same like the source package structure. Well, I don't write tests for interfaces, so this part is excluded. This is why you don't find it here. Just implementation classes. Okay, we have that as a structure, so you are able to navigate in between the code. Then let's see here the first design problems I run in. If you do API changes, in my case, I have designed the PDF renderer interface. You find here, there are three difficult or problematic, in the end, methods I have to take care as first. They contains here this class PDF reader. The biggest problem of the PDF reader is they are coming off two different packages, and they are not equal. So it's not just the different package import I have to do. They are really different functionality. So this was one thing why I was feeling like this, a bit crying. I don't even have the same methods between both classes, because just the package path you could handle somehow, but this is not able to cast and nothing. Okay. Another trouble was giving me here the render document from HTML. We will have later a look on it. So why this is a problem? The PDF reader is something, it's coming out of the library I'm using, and this hits a little the definition of how to create interfaces. When you're thinking the interfaces, we have some useful design patterns. No? We could decide between adapter, facade, or proxy. Then you don't need to have it directly. You have a single point of failure. You can change it. No? For example, the adapter helps you to combine or to couple an interface. They are not compatible to each other. Or a facade, no? This puts together several interfaces in one simplified interface, or a proxy. It's almost the same, no? That works like a facade. It's for also the generalization of complex interfaces. But yeah, always if I bring there in these interfaces, like here, we will see in the PDF, this classes, this gives us troubles. No? Like here, you can see what I was doing to help the interface. It's able to implement in both classes, now in the OpenPDF renderer and in the iText renderer, because I mean, I have to, by definition of refactoring, keep the interface as much as possible stable. And here you see why this is not always that easy. As first here, I was dealing quite easy to solve the problem with a package path. Now I simply added like this, and then I was not needed to put the import. So our new change is already made here. And then I mark this on 3 methods as deprecated, because later in version 3, I can simply erase it, because this will not affect me anymore in the future version. It's just now for keep compatibility. So there we have the iText PDF reader, and here down there are the new class of OpenPDF. There's some others you could use here. They are not that much interesting. Some simple getters and setters. Our main thing is here, write document, the one I already mentioned in the presentation. So maybe here you can see it a bit more clear. So, okay. So this is quite easy to solve. No, you just put the package path in front, and everything goes quite fine. After I solve these troubles, I run in the next problem. Yeah, exactly, method overloading. When we have a little theoretically look in method overloading, well, we see the method name and the arguments are the things you can overload. As first, the biggest problem is doesn't care here of the name you use for your classes variables. It's important here that the classes are different. Like here, the PDF reader and the iText PDF reader. As long as I have there some changes, everything is fine. What is not working is the return. So if I just change the return, no way. That means I have to rename by force the method. So in my case, I was decided to say, okay, the read document method will rename to load document. It's also a little understandable what I was doing and not that far from the original. But here we have a strong API change. And all the time here in the methods, the class of the library. So this would be a solution in the end in the future to say, to have more generic implementation of the interface, take out here this PDF reader to write an own class that encapsulate all the PDF reader functionality by my own package, to put there a wrapper or facade, just to use it in the API or in the interface, because then I don't have any more this kind of trouble. The interface is the interface, don't get affected anymore by the by the library I'm using. Here we can have a little excursus. You can see that in another functionality I was using. For example, I have there something like a property reader. And here you already see there is no imports in the interface or something else. This is completely plain Java standard API. And in this way, it's very easy for me to change there the interface. A bit more interesting is the functionality of the logger, because here I'm using also an external framework. This is Logback framework and simple Java logging facade, SLF4J. Here's the same. You will not find any import of this library. Very helpful for me was then when I was dealing there with the log level. I encapsulated here the log level, not from the library. I was creating an own. You can find there in the domain. There is a log level. I just define as an anon. And in this way, my logger interface is really generic, and it's more easy to change in the future the logging API in the background, or the logging library I have there connected, because here I don't have any difficult bindings to some libraries. For the PDF is a bit more problematic. Why? The PDF tells me is a standard, but we don't have an implementation standard for PDF files. So in this way, we can say that PDF as itself, now for writing a PDF application, we have the standard definition of Adobe. What is a PDF document? But we don't really have a standardized PDF API like in XML processing. There you can choose between DOM, ZAX, stacks. This is more standardized, but a PDF not. And in this way, it's more difficult to say, what can I do to encapsulate the library or the functionality of the library. One solution could be creating an own class called, for example, PDF document, where you have all these information pages and already included. Also works as a wrapper, but nevertheless, then later here in this internal version, you have to add a lot of new stuff and make there the connections. The big benefit for the consumers of your library is they don't need that much changes when they are change the API or the library version now between version 2 or version 3. The API and the interface is almost the same. We don't have that much changes. So this is one thing. Method overloading. Here in my case, I was solved by load document. And of course, after I realized back to my programming classes, I was feeling a bit angry. This was my first emotional level in this moment. This got solved and I ran to the next. Now my interface was very fine and I was now needed to jump into the implementation details. With iText, it was very nice, very easy to create from an HTML a simple PDF file. You was just needed here line 88 and 89 to make this process. Yeah, if you want to do that with the iText library, it's a bit more difficult. As first, you have to include here all the where it is there, all the necessary dependencies. So we have here Libre PDF. I already changed here to the current version, 1.3.26. You see now it's a bit confusing, the fork called iText 5. Also, this is not really semantic versioning because they have here always the standard version 1.3. When you watch there was a former 1.2 and they just increased the last version number. As next, for making the process between HTML to PDF, you need the Flying Saucer PDF library and JSoup for process a well-defined XHTML. So these three libraries you need, and for this also a small helper class. I have here, this is the PDF replacement element factory. It's not so important. What this is doing here is just replace from HTML tags the images and include the images then later in the PDF file. So there is not that much things. I was grabbing this from the internet from a tutorial and it's working fine. But of course, if we compare now here the OpenPDF renderer with all the changes, here down you already see the preparings of the methods I have to implement now from the interface. I already declared as unsupported because in version 3 they simply will be deleted. Here you see an internal method, a private method on how to create well-formatted HTML from the input, where I use here directly the GSoup. To get not on future conflicts, I already place here directly the GSoup package paths, because document also is included in the PDF. And this way I avoid troubles. So our other functionalities, they are already existing here. We have load document, what was former write document. Write document we was changing, and we was also changing read document. Exactly. So another topic is here remove pages. The code almost is the same. I just was needed to make the connections between the PDF. That's all. So here we have the comparings of the PDF renderer. This is the original implementation. To keep this working, I just add here also the three methods from the interface. I already just have to delete. This was the new things. All the other things like redocument and I don't touched. So, but here we come back to the render document. So, yeah. And there comes a lot of differences, no? As first, here we was using the document. I was created the document, the PDF writer, set title and everything. And after this, I was needed to create a simple HTML string, what I inject here in the XML help worker for the iText library to string. Here you see the template I place inside. It comes from the signature. This template is just a simple string. You can use there, for example, the velocity renderer to make there some really nice formattings. And in this way, I wanted to keep it extremely simple. Yeah, then just close the document and the PDF writer, and everything was done. Here you see the line 88 and 89. In the new version, everything was different. I was needed here to create the HTML as well. I already placed this in the beginning. Then we have a little check if the template really is not empty. If it is, we throw an exception. Then I define the output stream, and then the iText renderer. Here the shared context that is able to create a PDF document in the end. Exactly these two lines now I use to make or to create from HTML string the current PDF layout. Okay, it's just set document from string. There we have here this small helper functionality, create well-formatted HTML. In the input stream, that's all layout, and then render create PDF. The biggest thing I was not like it here is as first, they could get more complex. We cannot manipulate directly the document. All these things we already changed. But well, minimum it works. How we can secure that everything is fine, all the functionality we was having still works? Of course, we have a test case. To do that as well, it's in the end, in the beginning, just a copy of the original test case. Here I use some helpful things to test very generic getter and setter, then load PDF, fail load. By the way, this is JUnit 5, and we can run it to see what's done. It's a nice demonstration of the NetBeans Idee I always like to use. I know a lot of developers, they are more for IntelliJ or Eclipse. Eclipse for me was not that interesting thing, because honestly, Eclipse, when I was starting coding, always it was crashed. And here you see all the tests are passed without any trouble. To support me, I use here a lot of logging during the test cases, and in this way I'm able to use really test-driven development cycle. Here we have the simple renderer to PDF, and here you see another important thing is I'm using Spring. So you cannot have two implementation classes by auto-wired. So in this way, I need to initiate like this. standard with a new operator. Then we have here our PDF. We have here our template. Could be also velocity, but in this case, our test cases should be as simple as possible because it's not an integration test, it's just a unit test. We are rendered a document where we say how to write it down. This we was doing. And let's see how it looks. There is the target. And in the test classes, you can find the test PDF. Voila. And here it is, my first PDF document I was created. You see this is my first. This is exactly what we are doing here in the string HTML, my first document. And here I'm generating a little lorem ipsum. In this way, now everything goes quite fine after I fix it in this way. But of course, it was not really something very nice to do it. And in this way, I have a little resume for myself now. And everybody knows, never touch a running system nor never touch the running system. But in our case, we was needed to do the change because of the end of life of iText 5. Yeah, the change of license. This kind of things, they always happen to you in real projects. With these troubles, you could avoid as first if you have in a little resume, simply do it in an own branch, because then you don't run in troubles because the branch is separate. If you just have to touch 3-4 files, and this is more easy to merge without getting any conflicts. The next thing is after you did all your changes in a branch, you can try out without big troubles what happened there. Adapt your test cases, run everything, secure that the functionality you already was having is still working. Keep in mind, API changes are really something complicated because you have when you work with modules, libraries, and all these kind of things, now you have to integrate later to a big system. You should think, use semantic versioning that everybody is understanding. I have a major version change. This is an API change. I have to be careful when I consume this. Maybe there are changes, they affect my implementation. I have to adapt it. This is one thing, the API changes. Also, don't do too many API changes in your project, because try to concentrate them together, that you have this once or twice a year, because then your system is much more stable and much more accepted by users. Because if I have to change with every new version, my own implementation is not that nice. For that reason, I was putting you here a little resources I was using. One thing is in German language written my current book, Continuous Integration with Jenkins. I'm talking there a lot about release management and all these theoretical things. Then of course the links to my project. These slides will be available later in SlideShare. I will publish on Twitter with my Twitter account Elmar Dot. Also Elmar Dot like this. The link to the slides, so you can have it for your own. There's some credentials. Yeah. Thank you for your attention. I hope you was getting really good information. You will not run into the same troubles like me. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference and back to the studio.